with his insights. Thank you.
Thank you. I can't believe you guys are sitting here all evening. I mean, what a bunch of troopers. I mean, seriously, my students wouldn't stand for it. They would have been gone long ago. And some of you, started working this morning at 6 o'clock, 5 o'clock? I mean, that's commitment. In fact, I am convinced. I visited the plant. Bob Peters took me around, and how impressive. I mean, I really believe you guys set the standards for safety. I've also worked in healthcare. They're down here when it comes to safety. I don't mind telling you. So I want to talk to you, but I got to tell you though, last week I spoke at the American Society of Safety Engineers Conference. And after that, my talk was over. One of the person in the audience can run up, Dr. Geller, your presentation, it was superfluous. And I said, well, thank you very much. I'm going to publish my presentation posthumously. And that person says, oh, fantastic. I hope that's soon. And I thought of that story because I'm afraid some of what I will say here today will be superfluous. Because you guys do set the standards. You've been there. And when I talked at ASSE, I was talking to safety professionals and safety leaders from a variety of industries. And your industry leads the field. And I mean, in fact, you've got this little thing I got here. It already has PPS, and that stands for People-Powered Safety, right? No? So you're already way ahead before, yeah, this was already made up, so I was so impressed. So I want to talk about paradigms. What's a paradigm? It's a perception. It's your way you see it. And people see things differently. And I want to share with you what research says with regard to how we ought to see it. But first I got to tell you a story about paradigm, about perception. 10 years ago, I'm traveling with my daughter. She's now a PhD, but she was in college at the time. We were traveling to see my other daughter play basketball at West Florida, University of West Florida in Pensacola, Florida. And we were driving for the basketball game. It was the following day. And my daughter says, Dad, could we stop off in Orlando? I would like to stay at the Disney Hotel. And I said, honey, we're in a hurry. No, just if I could just tell my friends that I stayed at a Disney Hotel. So seriously, we went to the Disney Hilton. That reminded me of this. This is a Hilton, right? I mean, I stayed at a Hilton over there. We got there at 10 o'clock, checked in a room, got up at 8 o'clock the next morning to take off, continue our trip. So we go down to the checkout counter, and they give me my bill, and I kid you not, it says $350. I said to the lady, what? We got here at 10 o'clock last night. We just stayed till 8 and it's costing me $350? Please, I said, can I speak to your manager? And she said, sure, sir. And out comes this young dude, and my daughter posted, he's cute, Dad. I mean, he was always doing it. And he walks up and he says, can I help you, sir? And I said, yes. I said, $350. I said, that doesn't seem fair. We got here at 10 o'clock. It's 8 o'clock. We're leaving. And he said, but sir, we have the finest restaurants in Orlando. You could have had the finest meal at one of our restaurants. And I said, but sir, we didn't. We got here at 10 o'clock. We're leaving. He said, but you could have. And he said, you know what? He said, we have some fine stores in this Hilton. Some of the finest threads. You could have bought yourself and your daughter some fine clothes. And I said, wait a minute, sir. We didn't. 10 o'clock, it's now 8 o'clock. I said, but you could have. And then he said, and by the way, this is a Disney Hilton. So, you could have gotten up and got on that bus and been first in line at the Disney park. And I said, sir, maybe you're not hearing me. I said, we got here at 10, it's 8, we're leaving. And then he said, but you could have. So I took out my checkbook and I wrote him a check for $100 and I handed it to him. This is, sir, it's $350. You owe me $250. And I said, no, I don't. The $250 is for you sleeping with my daughter. Sleeping with your daughter? I didn't sleep with your daughter. But you could have. Perception, right? Perception. How do you see it? And we all say it differently. So I'm going to share with you 21 perceptions, 21 paradigms. But more than that, I'm going to share with you how I think we need to shift how we see it. First, I want to show you one of my heroes. That is B.F. Skinner. I'm a behavioral scientist. That's how I was educated. So I have certain paradigms because I'm a behavioral scientist. Back in 1979, I started something you might have heard about, behavior-based safety. But the consultants took it over. I don't make any money with behavior-based safety. But then I listened. Well, check the quote. One can picture a good life by analyzing one's feelings, but one can achieve it only by arranging environmental contingencies. B.F. Skinner's legacy to us is selection by consequences. There are lots of theories of motivation out there, but the one that should make the most sense to you, because you've lived it all your life, is selection by consequences. You do what you do for the consequences you expect to get from doing it. And guess what? Most of us are most influenced by certain positive consequences. It takes emotional intelligence to do what you do. You're asking people to delay convenience, comfort, for a possibility, to avoid a possibility of injury. That takes emotional intelligence. But Skinner really says it when he says, selection by consequences. Then I heard this gentleman, W. Edwards Deming, 1991. At the age of 91, I went to a 4-day workshop and listened to Dr. Deming. Anybody else ever seen Dr. Deming speak? I want to tell you something about Dr. Deming. He was cantankerous. He was 91. And he was cantankerous, I'm convinced, because he was impatient. We didn't listen to him in the 50s, and he went to Japan. Perhaps you know this story. He is now given credit for more than any other individual for turning things around in Japan. When I was a kid, made in Japan meant tin, cheap, toys. And Deming turned it around because he taught them a different paradigm. And we wouldn't listen. And we're still not listening. And when he got up to speak, he was like, I'm sure he was just impatient. He still taught at NYU until he died in 1993 at the age of 93. It kind of gives me hope that there's still more time for me, but I am impatient. I'm feeling like Dr. Deming, because I've been saying these 21 things for 30 years, and people seemingly aren't listening. I'll show you what I mean. First, check out what Deming said. Don't blame people for problems created by the system. The reason many people do not buy into behavior-based safety is because the consultants have ruined that term. Behavior-based safety, when I taught it, meant that behavior is a contributing factor to most injuries, but behavior is an outcome of the system. So we have to not say people cause injuries, your behavior caused. That's fault-finding. That's putting the blame on people. And that's how many people see behavior-based safety. But that's not what we meant. We meant behavior is a contributing factor. So are environmental factors. So are attitudes. So is culture. And we have to figure out what does it take to influence that behavior. You can't measure everything. Wow, this is big. Sometimes you just do it because it's the right thing to do. Boy, did that shift my paradigm. You know, wait a minute. I always heard what you can't measure, you can't manage. Right. But you can still lead. You can still help people because you know, I'll give you an example. You know when people feel better about themselves, they're more likely to help others, to reach out to help others. So we know that. We don't have to measure that. We know that. That's a principle. And I'll explain a little bit more later. But the deal is, so we know that, so now we need to do whatever we need to do to help people feel better about themselves. More later. Ranking people, teams, or divisions induces conflict, destroys morale, and prevents optimization. See, I was this behavior analyst that believed you set up competitions between people, and that motivates them to be better. Deming changed my paradigm. Okay, let's look at 21 paradigms. 21 ways I think we need to shift. And some of you already do this. So this is not going to be, I can go quickly over some of this, right? From common sense to the scientific method. I've actually seen books where authors have written, safety is nothing but common sense. And then I've seen some of the silly things you guys talk about, not you guys, other people. 5 whys. It makes common sense, right? If you want to get at the root cause, you have to ask why 5 times. It just makes common sense, doesn't it? You know, I ask people, how many times do you say why? They say 5. And I ask, the next time someone says 5 whys, you ask them why. Where's the data? Where's the data? Without data, you're just a jerk with an opinion. And there's too much opinions. When I started in the safety field in '79, it blew me away how much, we didn't know what to do. We didn't collect evidence. We didn't collect data. Let me show you a simple way of collecting data. I've got companies, we have companies around the world actually doing a do-it process. This is behavioral science. Define the behavior that you want to influence. Observe that behavior to get baseline. Intervene. Some kind of intervention. And there are a number of possible interventions. And continue to test. And we have developed a science of behavior change by using this simple technique in many, many different situations. There's so much, we won't go into that now, but I'm simply telling you, there is a science of improving behavior. From fault-finding enforcement to fact-finding empowerment. You know, the 3 E's of traditional safety, have you heard of them? Engineering. Thank you. And how many engineers? I'll slow it down. Engineering, and then we educate you about the engineering. And if you don't do what we've educated you to do about, what's the 3rd E? Enforcement. Now, I'm not slamming enforcement. I'm simply saying there are more E's to worry about if we really want to get to the next level. One of those E's is empowerment. From fault-finding to fact-finding. 3 beliefs to find empowerment. And I've been told that this is one of the most powerful, simple models that I've been teaching. Do you feel empowered? See, the management definition of empowerment is giving people more to do with fewer resources. I empower you, get more done, man, you know? And with the downsizing we've got, I empower you, do more. But empowerment from a psychological perspective means, do you feel empowered? And you know, when people feel empowered, they feel ownership, they feel, I love your word, personal accountable, personal responsibility, they feel self-motivated. So how do I know if somebody feels empowered? I mean, that's the question you have to ask when you give someone an assignment. You ask them, do you feel empowered? What do you mean? Well, first question, can you do it? That's the self-efficacy question. And I know that's an academic word, and Bob's been teasing me all day about academia versus the real world, you know? But can you do it? By the way, that's a training question. Training. Do you have the training, the resources to do this? By the way, I do have a handout on this, which is on the internet. So, oh yeah, I can do this. I can do it. What's that question?